Hey there. I'm really glad you're here. Find a cozy spot, maybe pull up a blanket, and just let yourself settle in. It's okay to let go of everything that's been on your mind today. There's nothing you need to do right now except rest. I'll be here, keeping you company with a gentle story. So whenever you're ready, just close your eyes and let the quiet carry you. You wake before the sun. The wool blanket itches against your skin, damp with the cold sweat of another dreamless night. Your body aches from the uneven straw mattress, flattened, mildewed, infested with lice. You swing your legs down, boots still caked in yesterday's mud, and press your heels into the floorboards, half rotted from years of spilled trench water and ash. The smell of the barracks is a familiar mix. Piss, wet wool, stale beer, and the iron tang of old blood. You reach for your chainmail shirt, stiff with rust and dried sweat, and drag it over your tunic. The hauberk bites into your shoulders like it always does, especially where the rings have broken and dig through the linen padding underneath. No time to mend, no needle, no thread. You haven't washed in 6 days. You haven't truly eaten in 2. Dried peas and stale bread from a sack riddled with holes. And last night, a bit of cold mutton, though you're fairly sure it was half green. Your bowels have been protesting ever since. The others are stirring now. Squires move like ghosts in the dim light, coughing and rubbing their cracked fingers, helping the older knights dress, those whose shoulders have fused with age and war. You are not young, but not yet one of them. You can still mount your horse without a ladder. You can still lift your shield without a groan. Outside, the fog clings low to the muddy fields, hoof prints filled with water. Shouts echo from the far end of the yard. One of the squires has dropped a helm, and the old captain's voice rises, barking insults about how his grandmother could carry armor better. You don't laugh. No one does. You go to the stables, the ground slick with dung and wet straw. Your destrier snorts as you approach, his breath puffing white into the morning air. You place a hand on his flank, damp, quivering. He's anxious. He always is. Horses hate war. You think they might be wiser than men. Strapping on the saddle is a chore. Your fingers are numb. The leather is cracked and stiff, soaked last week in rain and dried stiff in the cold. The girth strap fights you like it resents being touched. It's hard to blame it. You ride out without words. The others join, a loose line of steel and cloth winding along the riverbank, hooves splashing through the muck. Your banner, slung from your back, drags against the thistle hedge as you pass, snagging. You don't stop. The road is worse this season. Every rut holds water, every step sends a cold splash up your leg. Your feet are already soaked through your boots. You shift your weight to ease the raw patch that's formed on your thigh. A wound opened from weeks of chafing in the saddle, rubbed raw against damp hose and hardened mail. The sun does not break the clouds. By mid-morning, you come upon a village, if it can be called that. 4 huts, smoke curling from one. A woman stares at your procession, wiping her hands on her apron. Her child clutches her skirts, eyes wide. You wonder what you look like to them. A column of armored misery, reeking of iron and fatigue. No saviors, no heroes. You dismount by the well. The water's low, thick with leaves and something darker. You drink anyway, too thirsty to care. Behind you, someone coughs blood. You ignore it. The captain orders a halt. You eat what little you have. Hard cheese, cracked from the cold. A few boiled beans, swallowed without pleasure. One of the men vomits beside the tree. Too much beer last night. Or maybe just the mutton. Maybe both. A call comes. A scout. There's movement on the northern rise. Bandits or rebels. It hardly matters. Your orders are to clear the wood. So you ride. The forest is thick, damp, slow-going. Your mail snags on branches. You keep your sword drawn, though your arm aches from holding it. The leather grip is slippery from old blood. You don't clean it anymore. There's no point. Something moves ahead. An arrow thuds into the tree beside you. You raise your shield, too late to help the man behind. He falls with a wet gasp, fletching buried in his throat. His horse rears. You lash your reins and press forward. The bandits are poorly armed, ragged, thin, desperate. You hate them less than you're supposed to. One lunges at you with a woodsman's axe. You parry, strike low, and feel the crunch of ribs beneath your blade. He screams, a child's voice, really, and sinks. Blood soaks your gloves. It's warm, then sticky, then cold. You feel nothing. By dusk, it's over. A few survivors taken prisoner, though you know they won't live long. The captain's in no mood for mercy. One of them spits at your feet, blood foaming at his mouth. You don't look at him. You ride back slower. A manless horse trails behind you, reins dragging. You don't ask whose it was. Back at camp, the fire smokes but does not warm. You peel off your gloves. Your fingers are blue at the knuckles. The blisters have broken again. You try not to think about infection. Someone plays a pipe, a soft broken tune, and someone else hums. The stew tastes of bone and ash. The captain tells stories of better days, but no one listens. You crawl under your blanket again, muscles screaming. A rat scurries over your chest as you settle. You don't flinch. Tomorrow you ride again. You wake to rain this time. Not a downpour, but the kind that lingers. A slow drizzle that seeps through every seam, every stitch, every careless fold in your blanket. Your hair is already damp when your eyes open. The fire's out. No one bothered to feed it during the night. Or maybe there was no wood left to burn. Your skin itches. Lice again, probably. Or maybe it's just the wool, worn thin and rough, rubbing raw against the same skin that hasn't been cleaned since Pentecost. You think of the river near your family's land. How cold it used to be in the spring. How clean. But the thought is fleeting. That river is far now. You haven't seen your father's house in 3 years. Maybe more. You rise slowly, back stiff, knees popping like dry twigs. The other knights are already moving, packing their things in silence, faces drawn and hollow in the gray light. You can count ribs now under hauberks that used to strain across shoulders. War strips muscle as fast as it builds it. The mud is deeper today. What was solid ground yesterday is now a churned mess of hoofprints and footprints, piss and filth. Your boots squelch as you move, and you stop pretending to care. Every step is the same. Wet, heavy, cold. The quartermaster's cart has broken an axle again. You're not surprised. The wheel was cracked 2 days ago and bound with rope. Now the rope's snapped, and the men argue over whether to use one of the banner poles to brace it. You keep walking. That cart hasn't carried anything useful in weeks. You'll find your horse, tied beneath a dripping yew tree, his flanks steaming slightly. He's trembling, soaked to the bone. His eyes meet yours, wary, tired. You place a hand on his nose. He doesn't pull away. You think it's the only trust you've earned in months. Mounting is harder today. Your thigh muscle flares as you swing over the saddle, and for a moment, the edges of your vision darken. You grip the pommel and breathe through your teeth, until it passes. No one helps. No one offers. Everyone's saving what strength they have. The march resumes. It's a slog. 5 leagues through open country, sodden and brown, fields stripped of crops by your own men weeks before. Villagers fled. The wind carries nothing but the scent of dung and rot. Here and there, you pass a scorched hut, its roof sagging, walls charred black. The rain drips through open windows like tears. A night behind you starts coughing again, the deep kind, from the chest, wet and rattling. He spits blood into the mud and rides on. You know his name but haven't said it in days. Speaking takes energy. And what's there to say? By noon, you reach the ruins of a mill. It's barely standing. Half a wall, a broken wheel, sacks of grain long spoiled. You're ordered to stop. Eat what you can. Rest the horses. There's nothing dry to sit on. You kneel on a stone and chew salted meat until your jaw aches. The fat is yellowed, the salt too strong, but it fills your gut, so you swallow. A priest arrives before sunset, thin, hunched, black robes soaked and clinging. He brings news from the rear. More men sick, more horses lame. The plague hasn't reached the front, but it creeps closer. You remember what it did in Calais. You try not to. He holds a short mass under the broken arch of the mill. Some kneel. Others stand, heads bowed, lips unmoving. You murmur the words without thinking. A habit, like brushing mud from your sword hilt. When he blesses the bread, there's none to share. Just a gesture. Just the ghost of what was supposed to be sacred. That night, you sleep under the open sky. There's no tent. Yours was slashed in a skirmish weeks ago. You asked for a replacement once. They laughed. The rain has eased, but the wind cuts through everything. You pull your cloak tighter and lie back, staring into the dark, listening to the low murmurs of men talking softly. Not about glory, not about God, not even about home. They speak of feet rotting in boots, of boils, of dreams of warm kitchens, of girls they barely remember. Your sword lies beside you, still in its sheath. You wonder how many it's killed now. You've stopped counting. A dog wanders through camp, ribs showing, fur clumped with mud. No one chases it. It stops near your feet, sniffs, and lies down. You watch its sides rise and fall. For a moment, you envy it. Your eyes close. The wind howls through the trees, and you think of a different life. One where armor is ceremonial and battles are games. But even in your dream, there is mud. There is always mud. Morning will come. You will ride again. You wake not to sound, but to stillness. The kind of silence that isn't peace, but tension. The hush before something breaks. The dog is gone. Your limbs are stiff. Your back damp. Your fingers curled tight from the cold. When you open your eyes, the sky is pale and colorless, like old parchment stretched tight above the trees. Your breath fogs in short, shallow bursts. You're not sure how long you slept. A few hours, maybe less. No one speaks. The fire pits have gone cold, smoke curling up from a few embers that weren't worth the effort of reigniting. The captain walks past, his cloak dragging wetly behind him, spurs clinking against stones. He doesn't look at you. He doesn't look at anyone. Orders come. A castle 2 days' ride north, one that has not yet sworn allegiance. You hear the words, siege, tribute, reinforcements. You think of stone walls and arrow slits, of long days watching smoke rise from cooking fires on the other side of a moat, while your own belly gnaws itself empty. Your body protests as you rise. The chainmail feels heavier today, or perhaps your strength is fading. You piss behind a broken cartwheel, the stream steaming against the cold earth. It burns. You don't look. You don't want to know what that means. They give you a crust of bread, hard as stone, spotted with mold. You eat it anyway. The squire who passes you a water skin warns not to drink too deeply. The well is low. You sip until your cracked lips stop bleeding, then hand it back. Your horse is limping. You walk alongside him now, leading him by the reins. His left hoof is split. You bind it with cloth, knowing it won't last, but it keeps him moving. You don't name your horse. You've had too many. The road is narrow, hemmed in by bare hedgerows and skeleton trees. The air smells of frost and smoke and rot. The mud is less deep here, but it clings to your boots all the same. You pass no villages, no travelers, nothing but the long gray sky above and the dull beat of hoof and foot behind. The knight beside you mutters prayers, not Latin, but something older. His fingers move over a wooden charm strung on a leather cord. You recognize the symbol, carved with a dull knife, worn smooth by years of sweat and worry. He says his mother gave it to him when he was 12. You don't ask what happened to her. You already know. By midday, it begins to snow. It's not heavy, not yet. But the flakes fall slowly, steadily, disappearing into the soaked earth. Your shoulders are dusted white by the time the captain halts the column. There's a ruined chapel by the roadside. Its bell tower collapsed, the roof long since fallen in. You gather there, hunched under what's left of the stone arches, eating what you can. Dried fruit, if you're lucky. Spoiled fish, if not. You chew slowly, watching the flakes melt against your gauntlets. The stone is slick beneath you. Someone lights a torch. The orange glow flickers against the blackened saints painted on the walls, their eyes long gouged out by vandals or time. A squire passes a flask, and you take a swig. Something fermented, bitter, strong enough to burn all the way down. It doesn't warm you. Nothing does. The captain speaks. 2 more leagues before nightfall, you groan without sound and rise. When the castle finally comes into view, it's smaller than you expected. Crumbling ramparts, crooked towers, moss climbing the stone. No banners fly. The moat is half dry, filled with reeds and trash. Still, it's a fortress, and that means digging in. The siege engines are still days behind. For now, it's observation. Patrols, threats, a show of force. So you make camp again. Not near the gate, but up the hill, where archers won't reach. The wind bites harder here. There's no shelter, no trees, just open field and frozen grass. You're told to help dig a trench. You drag a shovel from a cart and press it into the half-frozen ground. Your hands blister in minutes. Your shoulders scream. Your back bends like it might never unbend again. The trench is shallow, useless, barely more than a ditch. But they say it needs to be done, for appearance, if nothing else. By nightfall, you can no longer feel your legs. You sit by a fire that gives no heat, cloak wrapped tight, boots steaming. Your tunic is stiff with dried mud. Your fingertips are cracked and blackened around the nails. No one speaks. A few men cough. One wheezes in his sleep, a sound like death trying to whisper. You stare into the flames, and your mind drifts. Not to glory, not to God, not to love or gold or victory, but to a single thought that won't leave you. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You wake to a horn, low and distant, echoing against stone and hill. For a moment, your thoughts cling to dreams that dissolve before you can grasp them. Then comes the pain, the stiffness, the shiver, the weight of another day. Snow has thickened in the night, layering your blanket in cold silence. Your beard is crusted white. Your lips crack when you move them. You brush the snow from your chest with clumsy fingers and sit up slowly, every joint resisting. The castle still stands, quiet and gray. Smoke rises in a thin stream from one chimney. Whoever's inside is watching. They always are. You chew dried meat that tastes of salt and old leather. You swallow it with water that smells of metal. Then you rise, because there's no other choice. The captain's mood is short. He barks orders, waving a gloved hand toward the tree line. A small force is to scout the rear wall, check for weaknesses, hidden paths, a forgotten drain. You're chosen. You knew you would be. They give you nothing new. Your sword, your shield, your damp mail, still heavy with yesterday's cold. The leather straps chafe your chest. Your feet are numb in your boots. You cross the field low and slow. The snow muffles sound. Breath comes hard. The cold stabs your lungs with each draw. The forest offers cover. The trees are bare, skeletal, branches like bones reaching for the sky. The castle wall looms through the mist. Up close, you see cracks in the mortar, moss growing in lines like veins. The stones are ancient, uneven. Your fingers brush along the cold surface, feeling where waters carve channels through centuries. Then you find it. A culvert, barely a span wide, half concealed by brambles and rock. You crouch low, ignoring the cold mud soaking through your knees. You peer inside. Darkness. The stink of rot. Rats scurry from your breath. Too small to enter in mail. One of the squires volunteers to return later, unarmored, under night. The captain will decide. You head back in silence. Your knees shake on the slope. Snow gathers at your lashes. A raven croaks once from a branch above. Back at camp, the fire is barely alive. The man tending it has frostbite on 2 fingers. Black, brittle skin. He stares at them blankly while they wrap the hand in linen. No salve, no leech. Nothing to do but wait. You huddle close, boots steaming. A pot of stew simmers. More water than food, but warm. You cup it in both hands, letting the heat soak your palms. You sip slowly. Bits of barley and something tougher. Gristle or turnip, you can't tell. They call for volunteers for night watch. You don't raise your hand, but neither do you refuse when chosen. The captain gives no room for debate. The sun sets pale and early. Shadows grow long over the snow. The wind whistles low across the field. You wrap your cloak tight and walk the perimeter, boots crunching softly. Your sword is slung across your back. Your breath fogs in front of your face like smoke from a dying fire. You think of the castle again, of the culvert, of who might be inside. Farmers with bows, old knights with one good eye, children too young to fight, too old to flee. You wonder what they've eaten, how much bread they've hoarded, if their dogs still bark. By midnight, your hands have gone numb. You stamp your feet to feel something, anything. A squire brings you weak wine in a cracked cup. You nod thanks. He doesn't speak. No one does at night. You take the wine and sip, letting it burn down your throat. It does little. The cold always wins. You watch the castle through slitted eyes. Nothing moves. Not yet. But something is always waiting. You don't remember falling asleep. Only the jolt of waking, your head snapping upright, your legs tingling with blood returning after hours of stillness. The cup lies tipped in the snow beside you, the wine frozen into a thin red disk. Your breath comes fast. You've dreamt of wolves. The fire has died. A thin layer of frost coats your gauntlets, your shoulders, the rim of your helm. The stars above are faint behind a veil of high cloud. Dawn is still far off. You rise, slowly. Every muscle protests. The sky is silent, the wind softer now, but colder. Your armor feels like ice on your back. You move along the line of tents, boots crunching through the top layer of snow. Men sleep where they fell, under cloaks, beneath carts, some curled in armor, hands tucked beneath chins, breath rising in weak rhythm. A sound stops you. A crack. Quick, sharp, unnatural. You turn. On the ridge above the camp, a figure moves against the gray-white sky. Just a silhouette, still and distant. You raise a hand. Another figure joins it. Then a third. You call out. The nearest knight stirs. He mutters something and sits up, rubbing his eyes. More figures appear. Then a horn sounds. Not from the castle, but the trees behind it. Not a siege, a sally. You shout this time. Your voice breaks the silence like a stone through glass. Men wake, scrambling for shields, for swords, for helms knocked loose in the night. The enemy is already descending the slope. Not a disciplined column, but a charge. Wild, fast, desperate. Their boots churn snow and mud. They scream. Not for glory, but for blood. You run toward the front. Your fingers fumble with the strap on your helmet. The leather is stiff with cold, and it takes too long. The first clash happens before you're fully armed. Steel on steel. Wood splinters. A cry of pain cuts the air. You meet your first attacker near the fire pit, a bearded man in a patched surcoat, his axe heavy and chipped. You parry high, stagger back, strike low. Your blade catches his thigh. He screams, falls. You move on. No time to finish him. The camp is chaos. Flames flare from a tent as a torch lands on its side. A horse bolts, screaming, dragging a broken tether. Men fight half-dressed, with knives, with rocks, with bare fists. You see a squire fall under 3 men. You see a knight take a spear in the stomach and drop to his knees, trying to hold his guts in with shaking hands. You kill another man, a youth this time. His sword is too big for him, his grip clumsy. You don't think, just move, just react. A step to the side, a slash across the chest. He blinks at you as he falls, as if he hadn't expected it. Your shoulder catches something, a pole, a body, you're not sure. And you stumble. Someone grabs your arm, pulls you up. A fellow knight. His face is smeared with soot and blood, eyes wide with something close to madness. Push them back, he gasps. To the ridge. You nod. No breath to answer. The push begins. You rally around the captain's voice, hoarse but steady. Shields up, forward, step by step. You drive the enemy uphill, into the trees, away from the light. Snow falls again, thick and sudden. It blinds. It quiets. The screams become fewer. The clang of weapons dulls. Then silence again. They're gone, or dead. You don't follow. You stand among the broken. Bodies sprawled, weapons dropped, blood steaming in the snow. Your arms shake. Your legs won't stop twitching. You breathe like a bellows. A man kneels near you. He's sobbing. He holds something. A broken piece of a sword, or maybe a hand. You look away. Dawn breaks over the ruined camp. The light is gray, soft, uncaring. The castle still watches from its hill, and you wonder, not for the first time, how many mornings you have left. You don't eat the next morning. The food is gone, spilled, burned, trampled into the snow. What little remains has frozen solid or stinks of smoke. The squire who tries to ration out the last bag of oats is struck in the face by a gauntlet. No one helps him up. He doesn't ask. The dead are dragged into a line. They lie stiff in the frost, eyes open, arms curled in unnatural angles. Some are your men, some theirs. You no longer ask who is who. You only know the smell, and how quickly it changes when the sun touches it. You help dig graves, not for honor, not even for respect, but because the captain says the corpses will poison the snowmelt if they're left to rot. So you lift your shovel again. The handle rubs the raw place in your palm where the skin has already cracked. The earth resists. The ground is frozen deeper than your blade can reach. You end up hacking at it with a pickaxe, shoulders burning, sweat freezing against your neck even as it forms. A priest mumbles Latin over the bodies. He stumbles over the words. No one listens. The sun climbs higher. It gives no warmth. By noon, the wounded begin to die. One by one, in silence or screams. The camp has no surgeon. The last one died 3 weeks ago. Fever and blood loss. Same as most of the men he tried to save. Now it's the squires who boil the knives and hold down the limbs. They use a saw dulled by too many legs. You don't watch. You can't. You sit near the fire pit, watching smoke coil into the wind, watching your breath join it. Your boots are soaked through again. You think of taking them off, wringing out the wool. But then you remember the knight who lost all 10 toes from frostbite. He hadn't felt a thing, he'd said, not until they turned black and snapped like twigs. You leave your boots on. Someone sharpens a blade beside you. The rasping sound is slow, steady, rhythmic, like a clock, if you still believed in time. You stare at the castle. Still no movement, no flag, just stone and smoke and waiting. That night, it snows again. You sleep on your side to ease the pain in your back. Your armor creaks with every breath. Your dreams are fevered. A tavern somewhere, candlelight, a woman's laugh. You reach for her and find only mud. At some point, someone shakes you awake. It's the captain. His eyes are rimmed red, his breath fast. They sent word, he says. A parley at dawn. You nod. You don't speak. The next morning, you ride. Not in full mail, just a breastplate and sword. Enough to show you're a knight. Not so much that you can't move if they try to trap you. 2 others ride with you, their armor dulled by weeks of exposure. One carries the flag. White cloth, stained at the corners, tied to a broken lance. The drawbridge lowers slowly, groaning like an old ox. You enter the courtyard. Inside, the air is different. Still cold, but dry. There are no corpses here, no broken tents, no churned snow. Just guards with crossbows, standing stiff. You meet their eyes. They don't lower their weapons. You're led inside. The hall is small, lined with wooden beams darkened by age. A fire burns at one end, though it barely takes the edge off. The Lord sits on a carved chair, fur draped over his knees, a goblet in one hand. He looks no better than you. Hollow-cheeked, sleepless, too thin for his armor. His beard is patchy. One of his hands trembles slightly, though he hides it well. He does not rise. His voice is low, sanded down by exhaustion. We have no food, he says. No coin, no men to fight with. You nod. We cannot hold out another week. You wait. You know what comes next. He stands, slowly, and draws his sword. He lays it on the table between you. You look at it. Iron, worn, but still sharp. Still clean. A moment of silence. Then the captain steps forward and takes the hilt. It's over. You ride back in silence. The wind is soft, almost gentle. Snow falls in light sheets, quieting the world around you. You feel no triumph, no relief, just the same ache in your bones. At camp, no one cheers. No one speaks. The captain raises the sword over the fire, and the men watch it gleam. Then he lowers it, says a few words about the king, the realm, the price of loyalty. But you hear none of it. You're staring at the hill, at the castle that was never yours, at the silence that never ends. And for a moment you wonder, if all the wars in the world ended today, what would you do with your sword? You'll wake late, and no one scolds you for it. There's no urgency now, no dawn march, no rider yelling orders through the dark. Just cold and silence, and the slow creaking of tents settling under fresh snow. You sit up, cloak stiff where the frost caught it. Your body feels heavier than usual, not with exhaustion. You've grown used to that, but with something denser. Stillness. The kind that settles in bones and refuses to leave. The siege is over. You can't remember how many days it lasted. 20, 40, time bleeds together out here. All you know is that the castle surrendered and no one celebrated. No wine was shared. No songs were sung. Just the weight of yet another hill taken, another place that doesn't matter. Not really. Another name added to a list someone else is keeping. The captain is gone when you emerge from your shelter. Off to the keep, no doubt. To count barrels, to catalog spoils, to scribble lies into some report that will ride south to a man who's never seen mud on his boots. The camp is half empty. Some men have already left, sent to reinforce another front, to guard a trade road, to replace the dead in some garrison no one wants. Others sit idle, sharpening blades, brushing horses, mending straps. No one talks. Your hands are filthy, your nails black. You rub them together absently, flakes of old blood and soot falling away. The fire is out. You don't bother relighting it. By midday, you're called to the keep. You walk. Your sword hangs loose at your side, the leather balled in places. Your shield is gone, lost or broken, and you haven't asked for another. Inside, the stone hall smells of damp straw and boiled turnips. The lord who surrendered sits at the far end, wrapped in furs, coughing into a cloth he tries to hide. His children are gone, sent south, he says. Or maybe they were never here. He speaks softly, offers thanks, offers coin. You nod, you barely hear him. The captain gives you new orders. Rest a day, then escort a supply convoy west. No enemy expected, but remain vigilant. Always remain vigilant. You nod again. You eat that night inside the keep, the first warm meal in weeks. Meat, soft bread, a bit of garlic. You chew slowly. The taste overwhelms you. You sit near the hearth, where a real fire crackles, and stare into it for hours. You sleep in a real bed. Straw mattress, dry blanket. Your boots stay on. You don't trust the peace. You dream, but not of war. Not this time. You dream of a door you can't open. Behind it, light. A field in summer. A woman with her back to you. She turns, but before you see her face, you wake. The next morning, you ride again. The convoy is small. 2 carts, 4 oxen, 7 soldiers. Supplies for a fort no one remembers, somewhere beyond the hills. You follow the river road, boots tucked beneath blankets, the wind sharp against your face. The trees thicken. The snow deepens. You cross a bridge made of stone so old the moss seems older than the road. One of the oxen slips. It takes 4 men to right the cart. You say nothing. Just tighten your grip on the reins and keep moving. At night, you camp beneath the trees. No walls, no watchtower, no fire too high. The wolves come close. You hear them, not howling, just breathing. One man swears he saw eyes in the dark. You don't doubt him. You sit with your back to a tree, sword across your knees. The stars wheel slowly overhead. You think of the castle, of the silence, of the door in your dream, and you wonder, if you had laid down your sword in that fire-lit hall, would anything have changed? Or would the war simply keep walking without you? The road worsens as you move west. What was once packed earth has become a rutted track swallowed by snow and silence. Trees crowd closer. Some lean like they're listening. Others have fallen across the path, thick with moss and frost, forcing the carts into the underbrush. The oxen groan. The men curse. No one raises their voice above a whisper anymore. The cold eats noise. You begin counting steps. Not to measure distance, but to feel something pass. 63 strides to the bend in the road. 110 to the stream half frozen in its bed. 49 between the two crooked birches someone swears mark the site of a forgotten skirmish. You count until your mind drifts, then start again. You haven't spoken in 2 days. At night, the frost settles into everything. Blankets, boots, joints. The youngest soldier shivers so badly his teeth crack together. You give him your scarf without looking at him. He nods, but says nothing. No fire tonight. The trees are too thick, the smoke too telling. You chew dried figs with numb teeth, sip melted snow, and huddle in your cloak. The silence presses against you like weight. Someone hums, just a note or two. The sound dies before it can become a song. You dream again. The same door. This time it opens, slowly, heavy on the hinges. Beyond it is a green field, ankle-deep in wheat. The sky is low. She turns again. Her eyes are kind. Her mouth moves. You try to hear. You wake. The convoy slows as dawn breaks. The road ends in a clearing, what was once a village. Now just blackened beams, broken carts, a well choked with ash. Crows scatter as you pass. The men whisper curses, cross themselves. The wind cuts across the open space with a scream. A child's shoe lies in the mud, toe pointing toward nothing. There's nothing left to bury. The fort appears by midday. Not a castle, but a wooden palisade sagging in on itself. 2 guards open the gate without question. Their faces are hollow, eyes too big for their skulls. They don't smile. No one here does. Inside, the barracks are half empty. One building burned, its roof a blackened ribcage. You see 5 men sharpening spears. One coughs blood into a cloth. Another wraps his foot in rags that leak yellow. You deliver the supplies. No one says thank you. You ask where the commander is. A soldier shrugs toward a door. Inside, you find a woman. Hair gray at the temples, one hand missing. Her stump is wrapped in old linen. She doesn't rise when you enter. Her voice is calm, flat. They'll attack again soon, she says. You say nothing. You'll stay? She asks. You look around the room, the cracks in the ceiling, the bed made of rope and sackcloth, the broken mirror propped in the corner. You nod. She nods back. Outside, snow begins to fall again. This time heavier. You take off your cloak and hang it by the fire. The room smells of ash and tallow. You unbuckle your sword and lay it across your lap. The woman pours broth into a chipped bowl and hands it to you without ceremony. You drink. It's hot. It scalds your tongue. And still, it is the kindest thing you've tasted in weeks. For the first time in a long while, you feel warm. Not safe, not rested, but warm. The door to the room creaks in the wind. And you find yourself wondering if maybe, just maybe, this is what survival actually looks like. The warmth doesn't last. By morning, the wind has changed. Sharp from the north, cutting through the gaps in the palisade like a blade. The guards wrap extra cloth around their hands. You help patch the walls with timber so wet it bends under your hammer. Your breath hangs in the air as you work. No one speaks unless they must. The woman, commander, though she never calls herself that, walks the perimeter with a limp. The missing hand doesn't seem to slow her. Her eyes are always moving. She sees everything. How many arrows are left? How many boots have holes? Which men have stopped shaving because they've given up? You follow her through the day, not out of duty, but because it feels like motion is the only way to stay alive. There's talk of a raiding party, peasants turned fighters, or deserters, or mercenaries gone feral in the woods. No one knows. No banners, no rules, just hunger and cold and steel. They've hit 2 supply lines already, burned the wagons, left the bodies hanging from trees with no faces left. You're told to prepare. You oil your sword for the first time in weeks. The rust flakes like dead skin. You polish the blade with the edge of your cloak, fingers numb through the cloth. When you test its weight in your hand, it feels foreign, like a tool borrowed from someone else's life. The young soldier you gave your scarf to is assigned beside you. He doesn't look much older than 15 now, though you're sure he lied about his age. He checks his bowstring for the 10th time and asks if you think they'll come tonight. You say no, you lie. That night, you sleep with your back to the wall and your sword in your arms. You don't dream of the door. You don't dream at all. They come just before dawn. No horns, no warning. Just the sudden snap of fire. A torch thrown over the palisade, hitting a patch of old hay. Then shouting, then chaos. You're on your feet before your eyes are fully open. The boy beside you drops his first arrow, fumbles for another. You push open the door and are met with smoke and sparks and the blur of movement in the dark. They've breached the side wall, not with ladders, but fire and brute strength. 2 men with axes cut the gate open from within. Someone had been bribed, or scared. The first one at you is dressed in rags and iron plates tied with rope. He screams something you don't understand. You raise your shield just in time. The blow rattles your teeth. You swing low, catch his knee. He stumbles. You finish it. You don't think. The courtyard is a blur. Firelight paints the snow in orange and red. Men wrestle in the slush, blades slipping in wet hands. You see the boy from earlier. His bow is gone. He's stabbing someone with a knife, over and over, eyes wide and empty. You see the commander near the gate, bleeding from her shoulder, still shouting orders. You fight. You bleed. You don't stop. By the time the sun rises, it's over. The raiders are dead. Or gone. The fire is out. Smoke curls from what's left of the stable. The well is scorched. The gates hang open, one hinge cracked in half. 20 of your own lie still in the snow. Some still grip their weapons. The boy is among them. You find him near the inner wall. His knife is still in his hand. His eyes are open. You close them with your glove. You don't speak at his burial. There are too many to bury now, so they're burned. Wood soaked in pitch. Bodies stacked in silence. The fire takes hours. No one watches the whole thing. Some men turn away. Others leave small tokens in the ash. A belt buckle, a strip of cloth, a ring. You keep nothing. The commander is stitched up by a merchant's wife who used to be a midwife. She offers you boiled water to wash your hands. You nod thanks. The blood takes time to come off. That night, the fire is stronger than usual. You sit with your back against the inner wall, cloak pulled tight, boots steaming. Your sword lies across your knees again, but this time, you don't grip it. The commander sits beside you. She doesn't speak for a long while. Then softly, "You're not from here." You shake your head. She nods, staring into the flames. Neither am I. The fire crackles. Someone begins to hum again. A tune low and broken, more breath than melody. You don't know the song. You let it carry. You think of the door again. This time, it's open. But no one stands behind it. Only the wind. And a long road home you no longer remember how to walk. The days pass, but you stop counting. The snow softens, then crusts over, then melts into slush that seeps through every seam in your boots. The dead are buried or burned. The fort is patched with green wood that still bleeds sap. Life becomes routine again. Not peace, but habit. You sharpen your blade though no one tells you to. You walk the wall even when you're not on watch. You eat when the food arrives and don't ask where it came from. The commander lets you stay. You take no pay. You ask for no title. You sleep in a corner of the barracks on a bed of straw, with a wool cloak between you and the cold ground. At night, you listen to men whisper in their sleep. They cry out sometimes, and you don't judge them for it. You stopped flinching months ago. The days grow longer. The river breaks through its ice. The horses' coats begin to shed in patches, and the birds return. Thin ones, cautious, picking at the carcasses outside the palisade. One morning you find yourself humming, just a note, a scrap of something forgotten, a tune from somewhere you can't place, a field maybe, or a warm room, or a child's voice. You stop when the others hear it. No one mocks you. They only nod, quiet, like they've heard it too. You take up tasks no one assigns you. Splitting firewood, mending leather, standing guard when others fall asleep in their armor. A few of the younger ones begin to ask questions about war, about swords, about what it means to wear mail and carry a banner. You don't give them stories. You tell them how to clean a wound with snow when there's no water, how to stuff your boots with straw to keep your toes, how to wake before the frost catches your breath in your lungs. You tell them not to look their enemies in the eyes unless they want to remember them. One night, the commander brings you a letter. It's stained and creased, wax broken. You've been summoned, she says. The capital. You don't take it. She doesn't press you. She sets it down and leaves. You stare at it for a long time. It smells faintly of ash. You don't open it. Spring breaks through slow and sullen. The forest turns to mud. The road to the west becomes passable again. Traders arrive, wagons filled with salt and iron and stories. They bring coins stamped with faces you don't know, speak of lords you've never followed, and ask which towns still stand. You give them answers, but not truths. One morning, a new knight arrives, young, polished, sent from the south. His armor is bright, his banner stiff with fresh paint. He speaks with words that haven't been scraped raw by cold and grief. He calls you sir, though you never gave him your name. He tells stories by the fire that make the others laugh. You don't hate him for it. You envy him. He asks why you're still here. You say nothing. He says there are easier places now. Garrisons with warm beds and dry boots. He says the war's moved north, that the crown is gathering men, that there's purpose again. You ask if there's peace. He laughs, but not unkindly. There never is. You rise early the next day and ride alone. Not away, not home, just out. The path curves past the river, swollen now with meltwater. The trees are green again, soft and full of noise. You ride until the mud thickens and the sun slips behind a hill. Then you dismount and sit in the grass. You take off your gloves and let the wind touch your skin. You listen to nothing. And for a long while, you think about what it meant. To wear steel, to sleep in dirt, to bleed for banners, to swing a sword until your hands forgot softness. You think of the boy with the scarf, the woman who stitched your hand, the dog that curled beside your feet in the dark. You think of the door, still open, still waiting, but this time you don't walk through it. You just sit and let the mud cling to your boots and feel the weight of a world that never asked you to carry it. But you did anyway. You return to the fort at dusk. No one asks where you've been. No one needs to. They see it in your face. Not a change, but a settling. Like the snow after a long storm. Like ash after fire. The commander nods when she sees you, says nothing. She walks with a cane now, her legs stiff since the last ambush on the southern road. She refuses to rest. You understand. Sometimes stillness hurts more than wounds. The young knight is still here. He's begun to understand silence. His voice has quieted, his armor dulled. You see him cleaning a blade with slow, thoughtful movements. You almost speak to him. Almost. The days stretch longer now. The sky holds its light well into evening, casting long shadows from the palisade. The forest is louder. Birds, insects, leaves. You'd almost forgotten how much the world breathes when it isn't frozen. One night, a letter arrives again. A fresh seal. A courier with soft hands and polished boots delivers it with a bow. This time, you take it. You read it by torchlight. It says your name, the full one, the one you haven't heard aloud in years. It speaks of reward, of duty fulfilled. It says the war is over in the South, that you are summoned back to claim land. A title, a place by the hearth of kings. Your fingers smudge the ink where you hold it too tight. The commander stands beside you before you speak. You going? You stare at the paper. You say, I don't know. She nods once. Let me know before you leave, so I can say goodbye properly. You fold the letter and slip it into your boot. You don't burn it. Not yet. Days pass. You walk the walls more slowly now. The men greet you with short nods, not like a leader, but like someone who never left. They ask you fewer questions. They no longer expect answers. You help build a new watchtower. You split logs. Your shoulders ache. You stretch your back and listen to it pop, and you find that you don't mind. One morning, you wake to rain. Not snow, not sleet, just rain. Warm, constant, heavy. It soaks everything. It washes the salt from your cloak, the blood from your scabbard. It runs down your face like something being undone. You stand in it and do nothing for a long time. When you return to your quarters, the letter is damp. The ink has bled just enough to blur your name. You leave it there. That night by the fire, the young knight sits beside you. He says nothing for a while. Then quietly, I used to think being a knight would feel like something. That there'd be a moment. A kind of arrival. You nod. He looks down at his boots, but it's mostly just walking, fixing things, waiting. You say, it is. He asks, does it get easier? You shake your head, but you get used to it. He sits with that a moment, then rises and walks off. You watch the flames and think about how long it took you to say those words. And how much you left unsaid. The next morning, you ride again. Not far, just to the ridge. From there, you can see the forest stretched like a blanket, green and endless. The river curves like a silver scar. The air smells of wet pine and distant smoke. You take off your sword, lay it in the grass. You sit beside it. You close your eyes. You breathe. And when you rise, you don't take the sword with you. You return to the fort lighter. The sword stays behind, buried in the grass, its hilt still visible between the stems. You don't mark the place. You don't need to. Oh, you'll never forget where it is. You carry its weight even when it's gone. No one notices its absence at first. Or if they do, they don't ask. Perhaps they understand. Or perhaps they've seen enough men carry blades too long and never find the right ground to leave them in. You take a new task, overseeing the repairs on the outer wall. It's tedious work. Replacing warped beams, pulling nails with hands that no longer grip like they used to. You cut your palm on a splintered board and bleed into the dirt. No one offers bandages. You wrap it in cloth and keep working. The commander visits you that evening. She watches you hammer for a while before speaking. You're different. You pause. She points to your side where the sword used to hang. That thing not coming back? You shake your head. She gives a dry laugh. Just once. Smart. You want to say something about silence, about the sound of steel leaving flesh, about how nothing ever feels the same after that. But the words stay somewhere behind your ribs. She claps your shoulder gently with her one hand. The South doesn't need another lord, she says. But we could use a man who knows how to rebuild a roof. Then she walks away. That night, the rain returns. Heavier now, drumming on the wooden roofs like fists. The fire struggles in the hearth. Men stay close, swapping stories, some true, some less so. You sit near the edge, listening. One man talks about a wife he hasn't seen in 6 years. Another wonders aloud if the capital even remembers his name. The young knight sits nearby, whittling a stick into nothing. He doesn't speak. You glance at him once. His eyes are hollow, but he's here. He stayed. That's something. The rain doesn't stop for days. The river overflows. The ground turns to soup. You help move supplies to the high barn, the only structure with stone foundations. You wade through mud up to your knees, your cloak dragging behind you like a sodden banner. You don't complain. No one does. There's no one left to listen. One morning, the clouds break. The sun rises over the ridge, gold on wet wood, steam rising from the fort like breath. The birds return. One lands on the broken corner of the wall and pecks at the moss. Another nests in a crack above the gate. You stand beneath the eastern tower, sleeves rolled to your elbows, sleeves soaked in skin pink from scrubbing the stone. You look out over the trees, and something loosens. Not joy, not relief, but release. You feel it in your shoulders, in your knees, in the way your chest no longer holds itself tight against the memory of footsteps in snow. You go to the stables, saddle a horse, one you've brushed every day for weeks, but never ridden. You ride out again, not far, not toward war or home or the past. Just beyond the trees, where the forest smells fresh, where the grass rises higher than your boots, where the wind has no memory. You dismount and walk. The saddle creaks behind you. The world is quiet. You close your eyes, tilt your head to the sky. The warmth on your skin is real. Not imagined, not hoped for. Real. You take off your cloak. Let the wind catch it. You don't need it anymore. You walk until your legs ache, then sit beneath a tree older than the road you came in on. The sword is behind you. The war is behind you. The mud is still on your boots. But it no longer feels like weight. It feels like earth. And for the first time since you first lifted a blade, you think, maybe this is what it was all for. Not glory, not gold, not a name etched into stone, but the silence after, and the choice to stay in it. You don't return that night. The woods cradle you in their silence, deeper than the fort's quiet ever was. You build no fire. You don't need one. The earth still holds the warmth of the day, and your body has long since learned to bend without protest. Above, the stars return, not veiled by smoke or torchlight, but sharp and clean. You lie on your back, watching them. They're not brighter than you remember, just clearer. Like a truth you've always known, but couldn't look at until the noise stopped. You sleep without dreams. And when you wake, there is no dread. No instant inventory of wounds. No listening for movement in the dark. Only the chirping of insects, the slow sway of trees, a breeze that stirs the tall grass. You don't rush to stand. You sit for a while, knees drawn up, arms resting across them, chin to your forearms. Your joints creak, but it's not pain, just a reminder that you're still here. You walk until midday, not toward anywhere, just through. Your hand brushes against ferns, bark, petals. You drink from a stream without testing it first. You find wild garlic by the root of a tree and chew a stem while you walk. No one calls your name, and you realize no one has in weeks. Back at the fort, they'll notice your absence, but they won't fear it. Not like before. You left without your sword, without your pack. You left like a man walking to water, not war. At the edge of the woods, you find a stone, flat, wide, set into the earth like it was always meant to be found. Moss frames it like green lace. You sit on it, stretch your legs, close your eyes, listen to the wind push through the grass. You think, not in words, but in feelings. You think of the first time you saw blood on snow. You think of a voice calling for help that never came again. You think of the silence of men after they've survived something they can't name. And then you think of a bowl of broth by a fire, a scarf handed to a boy, a nod across a courtyard, a hand on your shoulder that didn't want anything. You breathe in, and for the first time since you swore your oath, you feel your breath come back out unbroken. You walk again, toward the river this time. It moves fast now, swollen from spring, carrying branches and leaves like memories it doesn't need. You sit on the bank, boots in the mud, and watch it flow. Hours pass. You don't measure them. Eventually, you hear footsteps behind you. Slow, careful, familiar. The commander stands just behind your shoulder. She doesn't speak. You nod once, and she sits beside you with a grunt. A long while passes. Then she says, "I thought maybe you died." You'll shake your head. "I know," she says, "but I had to say it." You glance sideways. Her hand is wrapped in fresh linen. Her face is tired. Her eyes are clear. "You're not going back," she says. "It's not a question." You look at the water. "No." She nods. "Me neither." Silence again. But this time, it's not heavy. It rests between you like a blanket. "You'll stay out here?" she asks. You shrug. "Maybe." She points at the trees. "There's a village 3 days east. Burned last winter, but the soil's good. The stone walls are still standing. One of the lads wants to try planting barley." You raise an eyebrow. "He asked if you'd come," she says. You turn back to the river. It flows like time. Forward, always. But the earth on either side is yours to stand on. You say nothing. She stands, joints cracking. You'll know. And she leaves you there, the only sound her footsteps in the soft grass, and the rush of water between you and whatever comes next. You don't rise. Not yet. Because for the first time since mud and iron claimed your name, you are no longer waiting for the war to end. It ended. And you remained. The river becomes your rhythm. You wake with its sound, sleep with its murmur. You move like it does. Not quickly, not aimlessly, but with quiet purpose. Some days, You follow it upstream, through valleys where no tracks remain, no banners ever flew. Other days, you simply sit beside it, whittling a stick or watching a heron wade through the shallows like it owns the world. You see no soldiers, no squires, no captains shouting your name. The mail shirt you once wore like skin lies buried beneath a cairn of stones near the ridge. You didn't weep when you left it. You didn't speak. You simply placed it down, rusted, heavy, and covered it with handfuls of dirt and silence. There's peace in that. One evening, the boy finds you. Not the one who died in the snow. Another, smaller, ganglier. The same wide eyes, but clearer now. He's breathless when he arrives, having run for miles. His clothes are too big, his boots too small. He stands at the edge of the riverbank, squinting. "You're him, aren't you?" You don't answer. He steps closer. "They said you used to be a knight." You nod once, slowly. He grins. "They also said you gave it up, that you just walked away." You study him. There's no mockery in his voice, no disbelief, just curiosity. And something else. The thing you used to carry before you knew what steel felt like in snow. A kind of hope not yet broken. "I want to learn," he says, "to do what you did." You shake your head. You don't. He frowns. "Why not?" You look at the river, then say, "Because what I did wasn't fighting. It was surviving." He sits beside you, legs crossed, hands fidgeting. He pulls a bit of bread from a cloth and offers half. You take it, chew in silence. After a while, he says, "Is it true you killed a man with your bare hands?" You look at him, then say, "I killed men with hands, and steel, and fire, and by accident. I don't remember which was which." He's quiet for a long time, then softer. "But why'd you stop?" You close your eyes. "Because I had to. Because if I didn't, I'd forget the sound of wind in trees. Because no sword ever brought back the faces that looked at me the moment before they stopped being faces." But you don't say that. You just say, "Because I wanted to feel the ground again." The boy doesn't fully understand, but he nods like he does. That night, he sleeps beside the fire you build. He curls beneath a borrowed cloak, dreams twitching in his feet. You watch him, the flames flickering on his face. You don't see a soldier. You see someone who still has time. In the morning, you show him how to find dry wood even after rain, how to boil water with hot stones, how to tie a knot that will hold under a cartload of weight. He listens. He asks. He tries. You stay together a few days. You never say it, but he knows when it's time to go. He leaves with a satchel of food, a knife, and a silence you both respect. Before he goes, he places a smooth stone in your hand, black, flat, warm from his palm. "For luck," he says. You nod, watching him disappear into the tree line. You never learn his name. Weeks pass. You move with the seasons. The grass turns thick and high. The river grows warmer. The fish come back, and with them, the birds. You track deer for the sake of the motion. You mend a roof for a farmer who never asks your story. You sleep in barns, in glades, beneath stars. You carry no blade. Your hands callous in new ways. Your scars fade, not disappear, never that, but soften, become part of your shape. Sometimes you wake with the memory of snow and blood, but not as often. One day you climb the ridge again, not out of habit, not for patrol, but because the sun is warm and the wind is clean and your legs want to move. You reach the crest and see the valley below. A village now, small, rough, but alive. Smoke from a chimney, a woman leading a mule, children chasing a ball that wasn't there last spring. A patch of barley waves gold in the wind. You stand for a long time, arms crossed, breath slow. Then you descend. You don't wear armor. You don't ride a horse. You don't carry a name etched into steel. You just walk, step by step, down into the place where something new is growing. The village doesn't recognize you, not at first. Not as anything more than another man arriving from the trees, tired and quiet, clothes sun-bleached and earth-stained. You nod at the woman hauling water. She nods back, eyes wary but not unkind. Children scatter around your boots, bare feet slapping dry earth. One pauses long enough to stare at your hands, not because they are large, but because they are scarred. He doesn't ask about them. Children sense what stories should be left alone. You make no declaration. No one here cares for oaths or bloodlines or the names once barked in war. They want fences mended, carts lifted from the mud, thatch replaced before the rains. So you work, not all at once, not like a soldier, but steadily, with care. You dig trenches for runoff. You teach them to brace the beams higher on the north wall, where wind slips in from the pass. You carry stones for a new hearth, stacking each with your back and legs and breath. No command shouted, no glory expected. You sleep in a hayloft the first few nights. No one asks you to leave. The commander arrives a week later, on foot, with her cane slung across her shoulder like a staff. Her coat is patched, her hair bound in a twist of twine. She says nothing when she sees you, just sits beside the well. You hand her a cup. She drinks deeply, wipes her mouth with her sleeve, and says, "Place is uglier than I hoped." You smile, or something close to it. She stays. Others trickle in. Men who once swung swords now swing hammers. Widows who once cooked for garrisons now break ground for gardens. A blacksmith with half a hand reforges plows from broken helms. A former archer teaches boys to track rabbits with silence instead of fear. No one talks about the war. Not aloud, but it lingers. In the way people check the tree line at dusk. In the way tools are never left outside overnight. In the way you wake sometimes, breath caught in your chest, hearing a scream that never came. Still, the barley grows. The goats multiply. The fences hold. One morning, the young knight appears at the edge of the fields. His boots are muddied. His tabard is gone. He carries no sword, only a sack over one shoulder. He sees you and nods. You nod back. He doesn't ask to stay. He just finds a spade and starts turning earth. By midsummer, there is a school. Not much. A dry shed, a slate wall, a bench. But it fills with voices. Letters are drawn with sticks in the dust. Someone recites a poem. A girl sings while she carries water. No one stops her. You keep your distance from the center, but they still look to you. When the rains flood the lower pens, they ask what to do. When a tooth goes black and the fever sets in, they come for your steadiness, not your skill. You kneel beside the sick. You bury the dead. You hammer stakes for the new ones born. One evening, the boy returns, the one who brought you bread beside the river. He's taller now, older, still raw around the edges. He brings a gift, a new cloak, stitched by his sister, dyed with bark and smoke. He hands it to you without ceremony. You wear it the next morning. You begin to laugh again. Not often, not loudly, but it comes, surprised from your chest, like a leaf shaken free in wind. The children notice first, then the commander, then, finally, you. You walk more slowly now, not from age, but because there's no longer anything behind you to run from. One night, sitting on a fence post under a violet sky, you realize something. You haven't thought of your sword in months. Not the shape of the grip. Not the ring of it leaving the sheath. Not even the last man you struck with it. The memory hasn't vanished. It simply has nowhere left to echo. The war ended long ago. But only now, here, with the dirt under your nails and the barley gold behind you, does peace finally have a shape you can touch. And it is this: a gate that doesn't close at night, a name no one needs you to give, a sky full of stars that belong to no banner, and the quiet weight of being needed, but not for violence. You sit until the stars appear. You don't stand until the dew settles. And when you walk home, you don't count the steps. Autumn arrives like breath exhaled. The fields dim to bronze. The air sharpens, not cruel like winter, but honest. The kind of cold that reminds you you're alive. Wood smoke hangs above the village in thin ribbons. The trees along the ridge turn amber, their leaves falling in slow spirals that whisper when they land. You mend a door that always leans too far to the left. Fix a loose wheel on the grain cart. Carry firewood to the widow with the bad hip. She calls you that silent ox, then pats your arm like she's petting a mule. You pretend not to smile. The commander grows quieter. Her limp has worsened. She won't say why. You hear her cough at night, but she still walks the boundary every morning, cane tapping a rhythm across the frost. You walk it with her now, without invitation. Some things don't need asking. The village holds its first harvest feast in years. They build the tables from barrels and old planks. Children string ribbons through the low branches. Someone roasts a pig. Someone else sings. Not well, but loud. And that's enough. You sit at the edge of the gathering, bowl in hand, steam rising with the scent of garlic and meat. A girl offers you a wooden cup of cider, grinning through missing teeth. You raise it in salute. She laughs. There is dancing. Awkward, stomping, joyful. The kind of dance that doesn't need music. That doesn't need war to be far away. Only forgotten for a night. You tap your foot, and the commander elbows your ribs. Go on, she rasps, before they think you're made of stone. You do. Your knees protest. Your back cracks. But the laughter comes anyway. Yours, theirs, all rising together like smoke under the stars. Later, you walk alone through the fields. The barley's been cut. The stubble crunches beneath your boots. The moonlight lays silver across the land, broken only by fence posts and the low silhouettes of sleeping goats. You reach the edge of the eastern grove, where your old cloak still hangs on a nail by the watchpost. You run your hand along it. The fabric is stiff now, faded, but it's yours. You don't take it down. You look east. The road still lies there, narrow, distant, winding out toward cities you once thought mattered. You wonder if your name is still spoken in those places, if the records bear the weight of what you did, of what you were. You wonder if it matters. The next morning, you help bury a man who died in his sleep, not from a wound, but age. His grandchildren cry softly. You carry his body with 4 others. There's no priest, just hands in the dirt, a stone laid, bread shared. At night, you dream, not of war, not anymore. You dream of hands, planting, lifting, holding, of a voice calling you by no name at all, only here. You wake before dawn and find the commander already sitting by the fire, wrapped in wool, her breath a pale thread in the air. She doesn't turn when you approach. Do you ever think, she says, that it was all just waiting? Waiting to finally be useless to death? You sit beside her. The flames crackle, the logs hiss. No, you say. Me neither, she replies. And the silence that follows is the first one that doesn't hurt, the first that feels like rest. You stay like that for hours, watching the fire eat away the night. You don't speak again. You don't need to. The first frost stays. Not a passing silver dusting like weeks before, but a true frost, deep in the ground, cracking through the bucket left out overnight, hardening the mud until it feels like stone beneath your soles. The air smells sharper now, thinner. The breath from your nose rises in quick white curls that vanish before you can watch them drift. You wake before the sun. Not from nightmares, not from cold. Just the steady rhythm your body has learned. The way a man wakes when his life is quiet but not idle. You rub the sleep from your face with the hand that remembers calluses and fire and weight. Then you rise, pull on your coat, and step into the stillness. The village is silent in the dark. A thin line of smoke leaks from the baker's chimney. You know he'll be up already, kneading with those broad, burnt hands. A rooster calls once, muffled by the barn wall. Somewhere down by the stream, a woman sings as she washes, soft, low, not a song of joy, but of habit. You walk the northern boundary. No one asked you to. No one watches. But the steps are yours now. A patrol without armor, a duty not to command but to protect what still breathes. The trees along the edge have shed their last leaves. Their bare branches creak in the wind, and you can feel the winter waiting just behind the hills. By midday, the children are chasing each other again. Their feet thump over frozen dirt, their laughter trailing behind like banners. You pass them with a nod, a raised hand. One of the younger boys shouts, "Night!" and draws an imaginary sword into the sky. You keep walking. Let him pretend. Let him never learn what it meant. That evening, you return to the forge. You haven't stepped inside since midsummer. Not since you helped repair the wheel hub with a rusted brace. But tonight, the blacksmith isn't there. He's gone to care for his wife's fever. And the plow blade cracked yesterday under a cart it was never meant to pull. So you build the fire. Slowly, deliberately, like you once cleaned a wound. With respect and memory. You pump the bellows. Lay the coals. Watch the heat rise. The iron warms. The light grows. You hammer. Not with rage. Not with the force of war. But with rhythm. With purpose. The sound draws others. They gather at the door in silence. You do not speak. You strike. You turn. You listen. Until the shape returns. Not a weapon. Not quite. Just a tool. And for the first time, you see the steel without shame. Later, you find her, the commander, sitting in her chair beneath the eaves, wool shawl over her knees, boots set before the fire. Her hands lie still in her lap, thinner now, bone and shadow. She doesn't look up. Thought you'd come. You crouch beside her. She doesn't turn her head. "I can't feel my legs," she says. You say nothing. Doctor said it's not the wound. Just time. Still, you don't speak. I thought dying would feel like slipping, like falling. She breathes once, shallow. But it's more like watching something walk away and knowing you won't follow. You place a hand on hers. She doesn't grip back, but she doesn't pull away. The fire crackles between you. The night wind hisses through the gaps in the beams. You sit together a long time. "Will you bury me by the tree line?" she asks, voice like dry leaves. "The ridge, the one with the crooked pine." You nod. She closes her eyes. Not for the last time, but nearing it. You sit until her breathing deepens. Then you rise, gently. Step back into the cold. And you realize as you walk the empty path back to your room that grief doesn't arrive like a sword. It comes like snow, quiet, layered, weightless until it covers everything. And that night, as the frost thickens on the window pane, you sleep like a man who remembers both what he's lost and what he's finally laid down. She dies 3 days later. Not with ceremony, not with final words. Just a breath that doesn't return. Sometime between dusk and moonrise, in the wooden chair she always used, facing the road no one takes anymore. A bowl of broth on the table beside her, still warm. Her cane leaning where she last set it, never again to tap against stone. You're the one who finds her. You stand in the doorway for a long time before stepping inside. Her face is calm, unfurrowed, her hands folded in her lap as if she had merely paused between thoughts. The fire's gone out. The room is quiet. You kneel. You don't cry, but you do lower your head, and for the first time since your first kill, you whisper thank you. The village gathers the next morning. No bells, no long speeches, just hands, rough, frostbitten, calloused, building a bier from cedar and rope. Women bring flowers from the last of the blooms, dry petals bound in string. Someone places her cane across her chest like a sword. The baker sets bread by her feet. One of the children, too young to understand, gives her a pine cone. You wrap her in her shawl. You lift her with others. Together, you carry her up the ridge. The crooked pine is waiting. Its roots twist into the slope like fingers grasping the earth. You dig into frozen ground, striking rock, breaking ice. Your palms blister again, like they did in those first months after the war. You dig anyway. At last you lay her down, and no one says goodbye. They just stand, heads bare, hands at their sides, because they understand. The ones who carry the most never ask to be remembered. They just ask not to be forgotten. That night, the sky is so clear it hurts. Stars blaze above the thatched rooftops. You lie in the grass beside the pine, her grave still fresh, still mounded. The wind moves through the branches like breath. You speak aloud for the first time in days. She was the last part of it. No one answers. But the silence does not feel empty. It feels settled. The days that follow are slow, but full. The harvest stores are tallied. The goats brought in at dusk. Repairs made before the deeper cold. You take her chair, eventually. Not because anyone tells you to, but because it remains by the fire, and someone must sit where memory still lingers. You tell the children her stories. Not all of them. Not the ones filled with steel and ash, but the ones with meaning. How she once threw a commander's helmet into a river for ordering a retreat too late. How she learned to fight from a mercenary who demanded payment in loaves of bread. How she once scared 3 deserters back into the line by lighting their tent on fire with a torch and no words. They laugh. They repeat them. They turn her into something more than legend. They make her part of the walls, the garden, the rhythm. And you let them. One morning, snow falls. Not a flurry, not a storm. Just soft, wide flakes drifting down in silence, catching on your cloak, your lashes, the stone wall you repaired last week. The children try to catch them on their tongues. You lean against the well and watch. The young knight, older now, steadier, comes to stand beside you. She'd have liked this, he says. You nod. She'd have cursed it all the same. You smile, the kind that sits quietly behind your ribs. The firewood stacked high, the larders full, the forge quiet. There will be time to think, soon. Time to sit and write the things you never said. Time to draw the map of what happened. Not with borders and names, but with memories laid like stones across the dirt. For now, you walk the village again. Boots crunching fresh snow. No sword, No orders, only the sound of wind and the warmth of what's been built, not from conquest, but from return. And as you pass the old forge, the fields long gone to frost, the ridge now holding more than just pine, you finally understand. Peace is not what waits at the end. It's what you build when the waiting ends. And you have built something worth surviving for. Winter deepens. It doesn't come all at once, but in layers. Thin and quiet at first, then heavy, absolute. The river slows. The roads vanish beneath snowdrifts. Smoke becomes a part of the sky, trailing from every chimney like a thread tying the village together. Even sound changes. Every noise feels muffled, cushioned, like the world has drawn a blanket over its shoulders. You rise before light each morning, as you always have. The cold seeps into the bones quicker now. It takes longer to loosen your joints, longer for the warmth of breath to reach your fingertips. But you move, because that's the rhythm that carries you. Habit carved from hardship. There are fewer tasks now. The ground is too hard to till, the fence is too buried to mend. But life continues, in ways that feel softer. Bread to bake, clothes to patch, the slow, careful tending of small things. Embers, bruises, hope. You help where you can. The widow who lost her roof to wind. You patch the beams with tar-soaked cloth. The boy with the frost-bitten fingers. You show him how to rub snow against his palms, not ice, until the sting returns. The baby born too early. You carry kindling each night to keep her warm. The world shrinks, becomes a single hearth, a single gate, a single sky that grows dark too soon. One evening, you sit in the old watch post above the village, the one no longer used for war. You look out across the rooftops dusted with moonlight, the narrow paths through snow where children walk to bring soup to neighbors. A dog barks once, then quiets. Somewhere, a man hums as he sharpens a tool he might not need until spring. You think of cities far south, of marble halls and stained glass. You wonder if they ever see sky like this, or if they only remember the names of men who bled for banners they forgot to lower. Your hand rests on the window's wooden frame. The edges are smoothed by time. You trace them with your thumb, the same way you once traced the leather grip of your sword. But there is no grip now, no blade, no need. You step down the ladder slowly, boots crunching softly as you cross the yard. The stars follow above, silent, indifferent. Inside, the fire is still burning. The commander's chair sits empty, a shawl still draped across the back. No one has moved it. No one dares. Not because they fear her memory, but because some absences should be allowed to breathe. You sit beside it. The young knight enters. He carries a small book in his hands, worn, hand-stitched, bound with twine. He sets it on the table without a word and pours 2 cups of something warm. You open the book slowly. Inside, pages of names. No titles, no ranks, just names. And next to each, a short line. 8 wild onions the day the siege broke. Carried his brother's sword even when it cracked. Sang to the horses before battles. No stories of heroics. No myths. Only truth, pressed like leaves between pages. You run your fingers over the ink. He says quietly, I thought we should remember them, not just what they did, but what they were. You close the book gently, nod. You drink in silence. Outside, snow begins again, slow and silent, the kind that lingers. Later, you write your own name in the book. Not at the front, not at the end. Just somewhere in the middle, between a man who made shoes from armor straps and a woman who once cooked stew for 30 men in a dented pot. Next to your name, you hesitate. Then you write, laid down the sword when the war didn't ask him to. And beneath it, just for yourself, taught the rest of us how to stay. You close the book. You add a log to the fire. And when the wind knocks at the door that night, it sounds not like a threat, but like an old friend asking to come in from the cold. By midwinter, time loses its shape. Days bleed into one another like watercolor in thawing snow. The sky rarely shifts, a pale, washed-out gray that stretches from ridge to ridge, softening even the shadows. Footprints in the snow take days to fill, and your own paths between the forge, the well, and the fields have become narrow trenches, carved not by weight, but by rhythm. The village breathes slowly. Children are quieter, not sad, just hushed, like they understand something older than themselves. They huddle around fires with their mothers, tracing stories in the soot with fingers too cold to hold quills. Their laughter still rings, sharp, sudden, fleeting, like flint against stone. You spend most days tending the small things. Oil the hinges that groan in the frost. Wrap leather around worn axe handles. Carve spoons when your hands ache too much for heavier tools. You find you've become the one they come to with questions that aren't really questions. When will the ground soften? Will the goats birth early this year? Do you think we'll see green by the end of next month? You never give promises. You just listen, nod, offer what you can. A gesture, a word, the kind of silence that feels like presence. The book stays on the hearth table. It grows slowly, not in size, but in gravity. Each page a weight, each name a thread. Some are written in your hand, others by the night. A few by the children who cannot yet spell. But remember, one entry reads, "She whistled to the wind when the night was too loud." Another, "He died planting barley, not holding steel." These too are kinds of victory. One morning, a rider arrives, wrapped in furs, his horse thin from the road. He carries a satchel stamped with the seal of the crown, wax cracked, edges frayed. His face is young, but his eyes are already halfway to forgetting what youth means. He asks for you by name. You meet him by the stable, hands still smelling of ash and glue. He offers a parchment. You don't take it. Not right away. "What's it say?" you ask. His mouth twitches. It's a summons. To fight? He hesitates. To advise. You nod once, then shake your head. Tell them I don't wear steel anymore. His lips part as if to argue, but he sees your face, sees your boots, the lines around your eyes, the stillness in your posture. He nods, slowly, as you wish. You offer him food, a place to rest. He accepts. That night, he sits by the fire and says nothing while the others laugh, while the wind rattles the shutters, while snow falls thick as memory. The next morning, he's gone before light. And you remain. You finish patching the northern wall. You teach the children how to heat stones to warm their beds. You help a man bury his father, not from plague or violence, just time. And say no words over the grave. Just place a stone. Just stand with him. Winter begins to thin. Subtle at first. The icicles drip longer. The morning frost no longer bites to the bone. One morning, you catch the scent of damp soil beneath the snow. You return to the tree line, to the crooked pine. The grave there has settled, but not disappeared. You brush snow from the marker, from the shawl they wrapped around it. You kneel for a long time, your breath clouding around you. You speak quietly, almost to the wind. They still ask about you, still sit in your chair. No answer, of course. Only the creak of branches, the stretch of sky. You stand, and from the ridge, you see the village again. Roofs dark with melt, the smoke thinner now, the paths widening. Life not returning, but continuing, because it never truly stopped. And you walk down with steady steps, not as a soldier, not as a knight, but as a man who has learned how to build where he once only knew how to hold ground. There are still things left to carry, but now they are lighter, shared, chosen. And when the snow finally gives way to the dark, soft promise of earth, you will be there, hands in the soil, planting what will grow long after your name has faded. The thaw doesn't announce itself. It seeps in. One morning you wake and the air smells different. Not warm, not yet, but looser, softer. The bite has gone from it, replaced by something damp and slow. A trickle from the eaves, a wetness in the corners of the window pane. You rub your hand across the frost on the sill and find it gives way easily now, no longer hard-packed and bitter. The road to the ridge becomes mud. Your boots sink deeper with each step, but you don't curse it. You welcome it. Mud means water. Water means movement. Beneath the muck, the earth is waking. So are you. You begin to gather tools. Not weapons. Those have long since been reworked into plowshares and hinges. But spades, scythes, blades for tilling. You run a whetstone along their edges with care, muscle memory guiding the rhythm. The young ones join you, laughing, clumsy. They still think it's just work. You know better. You know that digging is its own kind of prayer. The soil is stubborn, but not lifeless. When you press your hand into it, it resists, then yields. Cold, black, full of memory. You kneel and begin to turn it, row by row, stone by stone. Your back aches, but not in pain. In gratitude, the others follow your lead. A dozen in the field, then 24. By week's end, the barley field has been carved back into place, its lines rough but honest. You smell sweat again. See men wipe dirt from their brows instead of blood. It's the kind of tired that ends in sleep, not nightmares. The blacksmith's boy, gangly, nervous, brings you a new hoe one afternoon. He made it himself. You take it without a word, run your thumb along the haft, test the balance. It's good. You nod. He grins like a man knighted. In the evenings, you return to your seat by the hearth. Not always the commander's chair. Sometimes another one. The chairs no longer matter. The fire is what binds you now. The shared warmth, the murmurs, the silence when no words are needed. The book still rests on the table, growing page by page. You've begun to teach them how to write in it. Not just names now, but stories. Short ones. A moment, a sentence, a fragment of who someone was. She baked every morning, even during the siege. He built the gate without being asked. They stayed. No one writes about battles anymore. They don't need to. One night, the young knight sits beside you with a rolled parchment in his hand. His face is serious, older than when you first saw him. He unrolls it carefully. It's a map. Crude. Charcoal and ink. Rivers sketched in jagged lines. Mountains marked with rough X's. But the center, the place where your village stands, is circled with the name written beneath. You frown. We didn't name it. He shrugs. Someone did. Travelers needed a word for it. You trace the letters. Vigils rest. You don't ask who chose it. You simply nod. The name settles into you like warmth in the chest. Not pride, not ownership, just place. A place not of glory, but of steadiness, where things stop breaking, where things begin again. The next morning, you walk the field alone. No tools, No work to do, just the rising light and the soft furrows of earth waiting for seed. Your hands brush across the soil. You remember a time when this same gesture would have been to check for traps, for bones, for blood. Now, it's something else. You look out across the rooftops, smoke rising, goats bleating, someone calling a child in for bread. And it feels full. Not perfect, but enough. You kneel at the edge of the field. You press your palm flat against the earth, and you whisper, "Stay." Not as a command, but as a vow. To the ground, to the dead, to yourself. And as the wind rises over the ridge, you feel the echo of it. Not in steel, not in banners, but in roots. And roots, you've learned, grow deeper than swords ever reached. Spring arrives in silence, then all at once. A pale green creeps over the hills like breath returning to a long-sleeping body. Buds split open along the branches. Thin shoots emerge between fence posts and stones. The fields, brown and furrowed for weeks, shift in tone. From the dull of labor to the promise of color. You watch it happen, not with awe, not with disbelief, but with something quieter, something like forgiveness. The thaw has softened everything. The roads, the river, your bones. You wake without tension in your jaw. Your fists no longer curl in your sleep. When the bells chime in the distance, not for alarm, but to call the children to the school shed, you smile, and it stays. The work continues. The barley is in. Potatoes follow. You build trellises with the others, hands steady even when the wood splinters. A woman with one good arm teaches the boys how to string nets. You mend the loom when the threads go slack. Someone begins digging a new well, and you're there before they ask. It feels like breathing. One afternoon, you walk the full length of the village. Not for inspection, not for duty, just because your feet remember the shape of these paths now. The way the road curves near the kiln, the dip beside the old oak that floods every spring. At the far end, a man waves you over. He's young. You don't know his name. He's building a house, not repairing. Building, from the ground up, 4 corner posts, a roof beam already carved, a pile of stones he plans to use for the hearth. You offer your hands without speaking. Together, you work until dusk, until your backs ache, until the sky goes violet and the first stars appear. Before you leave, he presses a small pouch into your palm. "Seeds," he says. "Good ones, from the ridge." You nod. No thanks are spoken. None needed. That night, you plant them near your own door. Not in rows, just scattered, as if to see where they choose to grow. The next day, you find a letter left for you on the table by the hearth. Not official, not sealed, just folded, written in careful ink. You open it slowly. I've written your name in 3 places. On the stone where she lies, in the book beside the fire, and in the sky, each time we breathe and the stars still shine. You taught us how to stay. That is a harder thing than any war. We won't forget, but we won't worship either. That, too, is a gift. A friend. You close the paper and place it beneath the book. You don't need to know who wrote it. You already do. More days pass. The world greens. Children run farther from home, unafraid. The goats wander in twos. The forge now rings not with blade, but with spade and wheel. The young knight helps dig the footings for a bridge. A real one this time, with stone instead of logs. One morning, the boy from the river returns. Taller, sunburned, a scar at his jaw that wasn't there before. He doesn't carry a sword, only a bundle of stories. He speaks little, eats slowly, and walks the field with you at dusk. He tells you how far he went, the towns that still bleed, the men still waiting for orders that never come. You ask, why return? He says, I remembered you didn't tell me how to fight, only how to feel when it was over. You nod, and he stays. That night, he reads the names in the book, doesn't add his, not yet, but lingers on each one, as if listening for their voices beneath the page. You go to sleep with your door open. There is no need for locks now, no sentries, only the soft creak of wood, the hum of insects returning, the deep rhythm of a village that no longer prepares to die, but simply lives. You wake the next morning to the scent of rain and the sound of someone chopping wood. Not because it's needed, just because it's time. And so you rise, and you step out into the world you helped grow. The rain lasts for 3 days. Not a storm, just steady, soft, insistent. It taps against shutters, slides down rooftops, soaks the barley fields until they gleam like gold beneath a veil. The ground drinks it slowly, pulling it deep into the roots you helped plant with your own hands. You walk through it anyway. Your cloak darkens and clings to your shoulders. Mud cakes around your boots. You pass the bakery, its windows fogged with steam, and nod to the girl pulling loaves from the oven. She nods back, her hair wrapped in a towel, face pink with heat. Water runs along the gutters you carved last spring. It flows in channels beside the road. The well overflows, and the children splash in the puddles, screaming in delight, arms outstretched like they can catch the sky. You feel it in your chest, that hollow ache that isn't sadness, just depth. The boy from the river joins you under the eaves later that afternoon. His hair's longer now, his voice lower. He watches the rain, silent at first, then says, "They're saying it'll be a good season." You nod. "It will be." He turns to you. "You're sure?" You watch a droplet slide down a wooden beam. "Yes," you say, "because we've learned how to wait." He doesn't answer, but he doesn't leave either. That night, the rain finally stops. The village glistens under moonlight, every stone and fence post washed clean. The sky above is clear enough to see stars reflected in the puddles. From your window, you watch smoke curl from the last fire to burn low. You listen to your own breath. You no longer dream of battle. Your sleep is heavy, even, whole. The thawed earth gives way to sprouts, first in hidden corners, along the barn wall, near the edge of the kiln, then in wide rows where the barley was sown. Green rises in narrow threads. Peas reach upward. Vines begin to cling. The young knight starts carving a signpost, one to mark the edge of the village, not to keep others out, but to invite them in. He asks what it should say beneath the name. You think. Then answer. Leave your sword at the tree. The tree, the crooked pine, has become something of a landmark, a place for offerings, for memory. No longer a gravesite, not only. Now a place where travelers rest, where people lay down burdens they no longer need to carry. A scrap of cloth, a stone from home, a broken blade. One morning you find a woman sitting beneath it. You don't know her. Her hands are scarred, her back bent. She carries a small sack and nothing else. You offer bread. She accepts with shaking fingers. You don't ask her story. She leaves behind a single arrowhead on the roots. It glints once in the sun. The sign goes up 2 days later. Sturdy, plain, carved deep. Vigils rest, above a painted barley stalk. Below it, in smaller letters, "This is a place for staying." People do. More than you expected. By late spring, there are new roofs rising. A carpenter from the coast, a mason from a mountain pass, a mother and her 2 daughters from a broken town whose name no one says. None of them bring banners. All of them bring tools. No one asks if they may stay. They plant. They fix. They mend. They sing. You begin to keep a second book, not for the dead, but the living. A quiet ledger of names, tasks, offerings. One page simply reads, "Brought a new kind of bean. It grows fast, sweet when roasted. The first harvest comes early. Not large, not bountiful, but enough. The feast that year is held in the field itself. Blankets laid over stubble, platters passed hand to hand. Someone plays a pipe. A woman tells stories. Children race between tables barefoot, faces sticky with honey. You sit beneath a tree near the edge, plate balanced on your knees. The commander's old shawl is still with you, draped over your shoulders. Worn soft now, edges frayed. You think she would have hated the singing, but stayed anyway. The young knight sits beside you. He's grown strong, not just in his arms, but in the way he watches over others. Quiet, alert, present. You still think of them, he asks. You know who he means. You nod. Every day. Do you ever wish you could go back? You look at the firelight dancing in the faces around you. At the field you turn by hand. At the way the stars shine with no smoke to dim them. No, you say, and mean it. That night, as the embers fade and the village sleeps, you remain awake a little longer. Not out of fear, just to listen. To the sound of grain in the wind. To the rhythm of roots beneath your feet. To the peace that no longer needs guarding. And when you finally rise, you brush your hand across the tree trunk once more and walk back down the road you helped make into a place that no longer remembers war because it remembers how to grow. Summer settles in slowly, without fanfare. The sun rises earlier now, golden and full, warming the dew off rooftops before the roosters can greet it. The grass grows long between the stones on the path, and children pick it to weave clumsy crowns, which they wear for an hour before forgetting. You wake to light instead of chill. The ache in your joints fades with movement, not rest. The day unfolds gently, not pulled forward by urgency, but invited hour by hour by the scent of bread, the creak of wagons, the soft groan of timber swelling in the heat. The barley fields ripple when the wind blows. You find yourself watching them more often than working them. That, too, is new. There is more watching now, not because there is less to do, but because more is being done by others. The mason has taken to rebuilding the granary wall with the river stones you once used for graves. The boy from the river teaches a group of children how to track deer through the woods, though he no longer hunts them. And the blacksmith's daughter now fits the blades, not for war, but for harvest, with hands steadier than her father's ever were. They don't need you to lead anymore. They just need you to be there. And you are. One evening, as the heat fades and the sky goes copper and blue, a caravan appears at the edge of the ridge. Not soldiers, not refugees, just people. A woman with baskets of dye roots. A man pulling a cart of rough-cut lumber. A child leading a goat with a bell tied around its neck. They do not ask for shelter. They offer trade. You greet them at the gate. No sword on your hip, no guards at your side. Just the lines on your face and the weight in your posture that tells them they can trust this place. They stay 3 days. On the last night, one of the travelers, an older woman with teeth like river pebbles and eyes like dusk, tells a story around the fire. Not a heroic tale, not a legend. Just the memory of a boy who once planted a tree in soil too dry to yield, and returned each year to water it. The tree never grew taller than his knee, but it lived. And that, she said, was the whole story. When she finishes, no one claps. They just sit with it, because they understand. Later, she comes to you, places something small in your hand. A seed, black and hard as stone. Needs 10 years of patience, she says. But it'll grow in the end. You don't ask what it will become. You plant it near the crooked pine. The first time you don't visit the grave for a week, you notice. Not with guilt, but with recognition. You no longer go there to mourn. You go there to remember. And memory, now, is not a wound. It is a path. The field beyond the pine is full of new markers. Not graves. Just stones, some painted, some carved, some marked with a single word or shape. A flower, a shoe, a tiny sun. Each one left by someone passing through. The boy from the river builds a bench near the edge. Not for ceremony, just to sit. And you do. You watch the sky change. You feel the roots settle deeper beneath your feet. You count the seasons not by the turning of leaves, but by how many children now know how to hold a plow. How many old wounds no longer itch when it rains. How many nights pass without dreams of blood. One day, a young woman, a stranger, comes with a question. Were you really a knight? You pause, then say, once. She squints. What happened? You don't answer right away. You glance toward the barley, toward the crooked pine, toward the book by the hearth, where names outnumber stories now. But every page feels heavier than any sword you ever carried. Finally, you say, I learned how to stay. She nods, doesn't press, and stays for dinner. The fireflies come out early that night. The goats are quiet. The doors are left open. And in the slow rhythm of footsteps on earth, of rain on tile, of voices low with contentment, you begin to understand. This isn't what came after the story. This is the story. And it's still being written. Not in blood, but in breath.